Hi there, I'm Brian Calvert. I'm a journalist and a poet. I live in Almont, Colorado, which is near Crested Butte in western Colorado. And today I'm going to walk everyone through 3 simple steps to writing a sonnet. The first thing to remember in writing a sonnet is that the sonnet is a form of art and a form of poetry that is meant to be contemplative or introspective. So the first 8 lines of a sonnet sort of set up a situation, and the last 6 lines of a sonnet turn back and contemplate the situation that you've just set up. And so I think it's a perfect poetic form for anyone who wants to experiment with poetry. A, because it sounds fancy, and B, because it's actually very simple to write. So it's 14 lines. And what you really want to try for, we're going to talk about a Shakespearean sonnet today. So there's a specific meter or a counting that goes into a sonnet, and there's a certain rhyme scheme that goes into a sonnet. You're going to rhyme across 14 lines of poetry, and it's going to be very easy to do. The first thing to understand is the meter of a Shakespearean sonnet, which is iambic pentameter. What you want to understand about iambic pentameter is that it's a soft, hard beat is 1 foot, and there are 5 of those feet. So it's soft, hard, soft, hard, soft, hard, soft, hard, soft, hard. And you can vary that a little bit, but if you really just make 10 syllables across 1 line, that's a good start. And you don't even have to do that if you don't want to, because it's creative expression and who cares. So you can just write a sonnet. So your lines are going to rhyme A, B, A, B. That's your first 4 lines, which is known as a quatrain. Then you're going to rhyme C, D, C, D, which is your second quatrain. Those 2 quatrains together give you an octave, or your first 8 lines, after which you turn the poem towards its final sestet, which is E, F, E, F, G, G. So the last 2 lines of the sonnet will rhyme, and that kind of gives it a sense of finality, and you've kind of come to a point. When you're writing your own poems, what you want to do is you just want to start working 4 lines by 4 lines. The first 4 lines you write, they rhyme A, B, A, B, which means if the first line ends in being, then the 3rd line needs to rhyme with that, which is seeing. If the 2nd line ends in cold, then the 4th line needs to rhyme with that, like behold, or something like that. You can cheat as much as you want. There's rhyming dictionaries online. There's lots of ways to figure out what words rhyme with words. If they don't quite rhyme, that's totally fine. That's sometimes called slant rhyme. Sometimes it's called assonance. It's just the word sounds very similar even if they don't rhyme. So you just kind of set up 4 lines of a situation. So you're standing in the mountains, or you're on the street, or you're cooking dinner, chopping vegetables, whatever it is, you would write about that. And then you would take that a little bit further in 4 more lines, just getting some texture in there about the vegetables or the mountains or the bedroom or the street corner. And that would create your first 8 lines. And then you would really kind of turn back and think about what it means to be chopping vegetables. And you might sort of describe your inner thoughts a little bit more about that process. And then you want to just sort of like land the poem somewhere on a final thought, which is in your last 2 lines, which is the ending couplet. And once you've done that, then make sure to share your poem with whoever you want, because art is all about sharing. And if you don't like the poem that you wrote, write another one. This is Glanmore Sonnets 1 by Seamus Heaney, written in 1979, and it says here revised in 1998. So remember, a poem is never finished, it's merely abandoned. Vowels plowed into other opened ground. The mildest February for 20 years is mist bands over furrows, a deep no sound vulnerable to distant gargling tractors. Our road is steaming, the turned up acres breathe. Now the good life could be to cross a field and art a paradigm of earth, new from the lathe of plows. My lea is deeply tilled. Old plow socks gorge the subsoil of each sense, and I am quickened with a redolence of farmland as a dark unblown rose. Wait then, breasting the mist and sowers' aprons, my ghosts come striding into their spring stations. The dream grain whirls like freakish Easter snows.